Hey guys, so it was requested for me to do a video about my study tips. Now, as this is about studying, I decided to wear my glasses for you guys today. I usually don't wear my glasses in the video, but I thought, why not? So, I can't remember who this was, off the top of my head I can't remember who it was requested by, but I'll put the name here somewhere. And thank you very much for the request, and if any of you guys have any requests, please feel free to leave them below. So, I'm like most people, I'm not majorly committed. Well, I am committed, but you know, like, I'm not all about working, so I find it hard to get down to like doing my work a lot, which I'm sure is similar with the rest of you guys. So my first tip is to-do lists. Now this isn't even studying, this is getting myself to study. So to-do lists, I make one nearly every day. Let me show you, I still have yesterday's to-do list. And this has random things on it. I like go to the supermarket, file all my sheets, write up my Russian grammar, do an outfit of the day post on my blog, you know, film my perfume collection. Oops, sorry. You know, do my nails. Things like that. Nothing very exciting, but I like to put everything I need to do on one list because I just get such a satisfaction from like completing my list and highlighting things and crossing them off. So like yesterday I really didn't want to do this Russian translation I had to do for today. It was long and I didn't get it and it was just horrible, but something about to-do lists for me, they just the feeling you get when you've finished it, when you've highlighted everything or you've crossed it off, is just such satisfaction. I don't know, it's so satisfying for me that's kind of motivates me so much to just do it so I can cross it off. Obviously everyone's different, so other people may not respond like that, but for me, crossing off that off a to-do list, especially if it's something I didn't want to do, is absolute perfection. So that is my first tip. Try it out, even if you don't think it is for you, try it out. Fair enough if it doesn't work, but lots of people that I know especially, it really helps them get motivated. So yeah, that's tip number one. So tip number two, and this depends on what you're studying. If you didn't know, I'm studying languages at university, Russian and Spanish. So lots of my work is learning vocabulary and tenses and cases, spellings, stuff like that. And that's where you'll probably see lots of post-its. Now this is my wall of post-its, different languages. I also have, you know, like YouTube and blog post videos, because again, if there's a post that I've been putting off or a video that I've been putting off, I just like the satisfaction of, you know, crossing it off. But these are some Russian words and some Spanish. And I also have some over there as well. And I find that helps if I see them all the time. Like I was in a lesson today and I had to know what aeroplane was in Russian, and because it's right here, I remembered it. I couldn't say it, but I knew how to spell it. So that's always been a help for me. I'm a very visual learner, but again, it's different for different people. Bombard your room with post-its, because honestly it helps so much. I remember when I was learning Spanish, like the first year I was learning Spanish, I was trying to learn some irregular verbs. I stuck 2 of them on my mirror in my bathroom, so every day I saw them and they're up there, because learning's all about repetition. So the more you see things and the more you do them, the more you're going to learn, and the easier they become to remember. So that's my second tip. Third tip is being organised. Now this may sound really obvious, but so many people I know just have one, like, say like one file they take to every lesson, just stuff all their sheets in, and they lose things and it's just difficult. It takes so much time to find things. And I was like that. I used to be like that in like 6th form or the last 2 years of school. I was terrible. But now, you've probably seen this in some of my videos. Now every time I come home from class or I finish the day, all the random sheets I've got, I file them into their folders. I also have folders for different classes, different modules. This black one's just for Russian grammar, and I've written it up, paper, you know, like I like to keep it all filed and neat, and that just helps me. So that is my 3rd tip, stay organised. And if you're not very organised, set aside a weekend or even just one day where you can put all your papers out on the floor and just sort through them. Because I promise you it will become so much easier to find things, you won't get as frustrated, and the longer it takes you to find something, the less likely you're going to get round to doing it, because it's like another way of procrastination. So if it's right there, you have to do it, then it's easier to do. My 4th tip, and something that's always worked for me, but again, it honestly depends on what kind of learner you are, is flashcards. Now this is some Russian vocab that I had to learn for a test. Yeah, I had to learn 2 of these books for one test. I had a week to learn it. Anyway, so Russian, you know, I write it in the handwritten Russian, I'd write it in the capital Russian, I'd write it how you say it, like I transcribe it, and then in English. So this is the easier way round, but because I'm just learning Russian, if I was doing Spanish, I'd write the English one and then try and remember the Spanish, but because I'm just learning Russian. But again, you can just turn it back to front. And this has always been useful to me when I'm learning presentations. I remember in my final year for my final oral exam for Spanish, I wrote out several flashcards and I just repeated and repeated and repeated the flashcard again and again and again until I had it down, my speech. My speech was like 5 minutes long about Spanish about immigration and something I didn't know much about, obviously. So I wrote it on cue cards and I just repeated it and repeated it and repeated it until it got into my head. And then I wrote random word that I wasn't remembering properly or I always tripped up on flashcards like these. So my next tip, which I just touched upon, is repetition. People repeat things in different ways. People like to just get paper and just write it and write it and write it over and over again. I generally like to say it over again, especially with languages, because you need to get the pronunciation right and the accent and such. But people just like to write it and write it and write it and write it again. And repetition's always a good thing, because when you learn something in your class, it's just stored temporarily. If you want to remember it, you have to go back to it when it's still fresh. So say you had a class, I don't know, at like 1 o'clock, and you're absorbing it then, it will just be stored temporarily until you re-engage it. So if you don't have time, it's preferable to do it when you get home that day, but if you don't have time, maybe come back to it the weekend. It'll be harder to remember it the weekend. Like, the sooner you do it, the easier it will be. But you really need to re-engage it and do it several times before it's stored in a more permanent place in your brain. Otherwise it'll stay temporary and you will forget it. You really need to repeat it as much as you can, and not just at the same time. If you're going to repeat it lots of times within a certain period, you need to come back and do it again in separate times. Otherwise it'll just be stored temporarily. So yeah. So the last tip I have, which again may not apply to everyone, like I said, I'm a very visual learner, is doing things in all sorts of different colours. You can see, I'll turn my camera around my desk. I have like a million different coloured pens, I have different post-its, and everything's colourful, right? And that just helps me. It makes it more interesting rather than some white paper. I can't learn things just from writing on A4 paper. It just doesn't sink in. I need it to be visually in front of me, different colours, different pens. So yeah, that's my last tip. And again, it honestly depends on what type of learner you are. There's lots of quizzes and stuff online to kind of figure out exactly what works for you, and that will give you tips. I'll find a link to one of these and I'll put it in the down bar. But yeah, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you soon. Bye!